Hello, everyone. It's nice to see some old friends and it's nice to see new friends. And we are going to be talking now about the integration of Ninox and Shopify. And the best way to describe this is creating basically a digital store. You've got your back of store, you've got your front of store. There are a lot of individual components that make up a store or an online business, and we're going to try and talk through all of them. Again, we're going to go a little bit quickly, and I will be more than happy. Hold on one second. I don't think I'm sharing my screen yet. So let me first share my screen, and let's do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Hopefully everyone can see my screen, which is infinitely better than having to look at me. For those of you that can hear me, that's great. For those of you who can see me, I sincerely apologize. Okay, so let's move some of these things out of the way. So much stuff, Berger. There's so much stuff I got to deal with over here.
I'm really sorry.
I got to get paid more to deal with all of this stuff.
Oh, come on.
And we're gonna move that away. Okay. Hopefully everyone can see my screen, and we're going to talk about using Integromat to create that integrated storefront, that electronic storefront, which is again, we talk about clicks versus bricks. And our storefront today is going to be in Shopify, which is an outstanding tool that you can use for the sale of your digital and physical products. So I want to start by introducing a couple of key topics. The first one is, who are the pieces and parts in this little process that we're going to build? There is the front of store. This is Shopify. This is where we take our customer orders, where we receive our payment. This is the customer experience. This is the interface between us and the people that are buying our goods and services. So it's crucial that we understand that the user experience from the customer perspective is the Shopify experience. Everything else, what we would call the back of store, is really the Ninox system. And the beauty of Ninox and Shopify and Integromat is they all provide an extraordinary amount of power and capability with no or low code overhead. It's simple, it's straightforward. In many cases, it's drag and drop. And again, building an online store is a complicated topic, especially when you get into the complexities of accounting and integrating your inventory and order fulfillment and logistics and shipping and purchasing. We're going to take a short amount of time and take a huge topic and try and boil it down, but I will be more than happy, of course, to answer questions as we move along. So for purposes of this simplified demonstration, we're going to consider Ninox to be our back of store. And in this case, back of store is simply going to mean inventory management. This is where we define and control our items, our prices, our price levels, how much do we have in stock, and the fulfillment or the purchasing of the goods that we have to bring into our inventory before we can sell it to others. Now, the brilliance, the beauty of Integromat is it is the glue that holds everything together. It is the simplicity and the intuitive, straightforward nature of Integromat that hides its incredible power. And in that sense, it is identical to Ninox. It is startling, quite frankly. It's shocking in some situations how much you can do and how little it takes. So for those of you that don't like writing code, know what you want to do but aren't exactly sure how to get the computer to do it, for those of you that are visual and not textual in terms of dragging and dropping versus typing out lines of code, this, by the way, is the international symbol for typing out lines of code.
Come on, Andy. Cut the slack. Get to it.
Okay. So that is where Integromat is very, very good. Now,
absolutely.
In terms of bringing it all together, and we're going to talk a moment about best practices, and then we're going to get into it, actually see the system operating live. This is the crucial component when we talk about bringing it all together in best practices. In Ninox and in Shopify, you have a lot of duplication. Shopify can do a lot when it comes to managing your inventory, selling your products, and transacting arm's length business and getting paid. Ninox can do everything. So it is crucial, it is absolutely crucial in this scenario that you identify who is going to be responsible for what. Now, Julian just did an outstanding presentation, but the tools that he was using and demonstrating each had a very specific purpose. An email system sends email. A form system collects data. When you're dealing with Ninox and Shopify, you're talking about two systems that can do a lot of the same thing. So what we recommend, and again, I am a Shopify consultant, I am a certified public accountant, and I am a Ninox consultant and programmer. Based on those three perspectives, the best practice recommendations is let Ninox be your system of record. Let Ninox be that central hub to the wheel that is your sale business. When we talk about upstream or downstream processing, we talk about upstream, we talk about Shopify passing things up to the system of record, in this case, Ninox. And in terms of downstream processing, Ninox posting or processing content and data down to the Shopify system. All right? The other thing that I want to talk about, which is unique when we get into accounting situations, and certainly with Shopify and Ninox, we are transacting business, which means there are debits and credits, there are invoices, there are payments and cash receipts, is this concept of timing. When do things happen? And again, one of the beautiful things about Ninox is its ability to allow us to define triggers. Not only what will happen, but when it will happen and what will cause that trigger to be pulled. Integromat has that same trigger construct or concept built in. So it's important to keep track of when things are going to happen and who's going to be in control of the timing. To that end, we recommend that the integration from Shopify up to Ninox be real time, and the integration from Ninox down to Shopify be batched or be manually triggered once a human being has verified and validated that all of the things that need to happen have happened. So with that lengthy soliloquy completed, I now want to go in and let's get this system up and running, and let's see what we're talking about. I'm going to open up a couple of windows here. We have our Shopify store right here in the top right-hand corner. We have Integromat running right here in the bottom right-hand corner. And we're going to go ahead and get the mothership, the system of record, in this case, the Ninox storefront. We're going to go ahead and get that up and running right now. So let's go ahead and get into... I thought I had this up and running. Sorry, that seems to have not been. Okay. And we're going to go there, and we're going to go into the Mackay store. Mackay is a online and bricks and mortar retailer that sells men's and women's fashion and accoutrement for the beach and for summer locale and activities. Now, again, we're going to define Ninox as the system of record. We're going to go into our inventory. We have all of our inventory here in our inventory board, and we've just used cards. And what we're going to do for purposes of this presentation is drill into one particular piece of inventory. In this case, the beach cover or the wrap. Now, when clients use this is the Nioxus storefront. This is a piece of software we've created in Ninox that allows people to manage their bricks and their click stores. And we have a lot of users that maintain multiple stores, not only Shopify, but eBay and Amazon. And if you have a brick and mortar location, you're going to have point of sale within that location also. And let me get back in. Sorry, I want to make sure I'm in the right board here at the right product. Bear with me one second. I seem to be having a little technical difficulty here. Hold on one second, please. Okay, there we go. Now we've got the right product. So we can use Integromat. We do use Integromat to manage all of the relationships between all of our stores. We're going to focus on Shopify here today, and we're only going to focus on the inventory component. Now, I mentioned previously the idea of batch versus real time, and we talked about upstream versus downstream. When we are tracking the transactions in Shopify, we want to be tracking that in real time. And you saw a moment ago during Julian's presentation, when we are watching orders in Shopify in real time at all times. And again, we've created a very, very simple basic integration. What's going to happen here is Ninox is constantly tracking for new orders in Shopify, and when the new order comes in, it will be processed automatically in our Ninox system so we can fulfill the order, we can track our inventory. Let's see how that's going to happen. I'm going to go ahead and create an order here in Shopify. We're going to create the new order, and we're going to go in and we're going to order the product, the beach cover up, and we're going to go ahead and add that to our order. And we can go ahead and say we're going to get 2 of those. We can add in our shipping, we can add in our sales tax. Important thing to remember, Shopify is an incredibly powerful and capable tool for front end, but it does require a fair amount of setup. The value is if you do your setup in Ninox and makes Ninox your system of record, you can then push all of your Ninox data downstream into your store. But you're going to have to do a fair amount of setup somewhere. Once you have got all of your products set up, we then can go ahead and we're going to mark this as a paid order, and we're going to go ahead and create this new order. Now that we've done that, now we have Ninox constantly searching and tracking for new orders. Now, for purposes of this presentation, I'm going to go ahead and run this manually so you can see the integration. But this would normally be set up in real-time mode where Ninox is constantly looking as new orders or returns or any arm's length transactions come in. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and run this scenario, and I'm going to ask you to keep your eyes over here on the product screen, specifically here in the orders area. We're going to go ahead and process the look, and we are immediately seeing a new order popping up, and we've used a color flag to give us a strong visual representation that there is a new order in the store. All of the information that came from the store that was captured in the order ID also included the customer ID, but all of the customer information, the customer's name, the shipping address, all of that is going to be tracked here in Ninox. Again, we recommend that you use Ninox and you consider Ninox to be your system of record. Now, this is a simple demonstration of how we can capture the transaction, the arm's length transaction, and optimally the payment for that transaction in Shopify and use Integromat to be the glue that connects these two together. So there are a couple more best practices that I want to recommend when setting up what is inherently a complex scenario. For each different store, whether it's your brick and mortar store, your eBay, your Amazon, or in this case today we're talking about our Shopify store, you want to be able to control everything from within Ninox. So we not only have our Shopify product code, we not only have the Shopify store name, but I can from within Ninox access the item and do the item maintenance with the click of a button. And from Ninox, I not only can go to Shopify, but I also can pull up the integration itself within Integromat. So again, when we talk about, and anyone who's attended my seminars has heard me talk about this bicycle wheel architecture, the idea that there is a central hub and then spokes emanating out from the hub. In this case, the central hub is Ninox. The central actor is the piece of inventory itself. All of our quantities, our price models, all of our shipping and purchasing and logistics happens within Ninox. And then the spokes that emanate out from that central hub are things like our point of sale system, our Shopify, eBay, and Amazon stores. But if you run even just one store, even if it's just Shopify, but especially if you are running multiple stores for your goods and services, Again, best practice, use Ninox as your system of record, build the separate scenarios for each individual store. And the last thing that I want to talk about or remind you of, again, under the heading of best practices, when you are using Ninox, whether it's a system you built, whether it's a Nioxus system, whether it's something that you have downloaded in the form of a template, always make sure you have an emergency off button. What I mean by that is you've got lots of things happening in lots of different places. You've got inventory and your entire sales process being managed in Ninox. You've got the front of your store happening in Shopify. You may have other stores. You may have accounting happening in Ninox or in any one of a number of accounting systems, most notably QuickBooks. What you don't want to do is go to multiple places when you need to shut something down. So it's important when you are in Integromat to not only build the process, build the scenario that allows you to exchange data, but you also want to build a scenario that stops, that ceases the exchange of data in a situation where you need to shut everything down quickly. We have this yes-no switch here, which is yes-no, is this available in our store? We have triggers written behind this switch where if for whatever reason, if we suddenly realize we're out of stock and somebody wasn't keeping track, if we suddenly realize that our price model is wrong, if something has happened that we need to suspend sales of this item across all of our sales platform, you don't want to have to be going into multiple different places because then you run the risk of someone buying something that you are not prepared to sell. So make sure you have an on-off switch, again, in Ninox, in your system of record, that allows you to shut down all of your sales activity on an item-by-item basis across all of your different stores. Last thing I want to talk about, and I'm going to end this in Integromat. Again, this is a wildly, if not remarkably simple distillation of a very complex topic. When you are using Integromat to link your sales processes, again, in Shopify, in Ninox, in your accounting system, if you're not using Ninox for accounting, you do have the ability to have branches of activity, to have multiple modules, to have multiple players or actors, if you will, in any scenario. And that is part of the beauty and the richness of Integromat. But from a best practice perspective, we encourage you to build separate scenarios across separate functions. Stocking your inventory is a separate function. Transacting business because someone bought a piece of your inventory. Accounting for the invoice, accounting for the payment of the invoice. Accounting for purchasing and the restocking of inventory. Accounting for a return or a refund that has to be processed. It is possible to do all of that in one scenario. But we encourage our clients, and when we build these systems in-house, we build separate scenarios because it makes it so much easier to audit and track and debug and manage all of these complex links because we've got information going back and forth between multiple systems, often at the same time. So keys to remember: identify who is going to do what. You do have the ability to manage inventory in Shopify. We recommend that you manage your inventory. You define Ninox as your system of record. Build individual scenarios as you see here. Here's one simple scenario. When an order is placed in Shopify, it immediately shows up here in Ninox.
Thank you, Andy. Do we have any questions at this point for Andy, guys?
I can see one. It says, could you show the back end of your current Integromat scenario? So I guess he wants to see the setup, I guess, the Integromat scenario.
Okay, I'm going to go into Integromat in a minute. Martin, yes, I'm going to show the back end of this scenario. Mike had a question: as a best practice, how much code goes into Ninox to call the functions in Shopify? Mike, it really depends whether you're coding it in Ninox. And again, we haven't even gotten into the discussion of APIs and where all of that, how you're going to utilize that technology. we like to minimize our code in Ninox and build as much into the Integromat platform as possible. The only code that we do in Ninox is for transactions that happen within Ninox entirely. For example, we cut a purchase order in Ninox, we receive that purchase order in Ninox, we add new stock to our inventory in Ninox, and then and only then do we have a button that serves as a trigger to update our quantities in Shopify. So where we need to create code or create a process or codify a process that spans multiple systems, we'll write that code in, or not write that code. We will define that algorithm, define that processing automation in Integromat. Where everything has to happen in Ninox, that's the only time that we would really use the Ninox code editor. So, Mike, hopefully that answers your question. Martin asks if we could look behind the scenes, and Martin, absolutely. And we're going to look here. And again, folks, I built this to be very, very, very simple. When you get into any online store processing, there are some levels of complexity, and Shopify does have a fair learning curve to it if you're going to build your own store in terms of price models and price levels and all of the different ways you can present products with add-ons and upsells and things like that. So I've intentionally today made this as simple as possible. What we are doing is, again, and this is no different than what you saw with Julian just a few moments ago, we have defined the team, the database, and the table where we capture the information in Ninox. Obviously, the first thing you want to do is create your Ninox connection. And there is good online help to do that. This will require you to create the API key. You insert the API key. You insert the API key into your scenario in Shopify. In Integromat. So the two are connected. And at that point, it literally is a drag and drop. It is as simple as pulling the different fields. You have all of your different fields in your Shopify store and dragging them into the corresponding fields in your Ninox table. Now, again, we use a staging table in Ninox. We don't have transactions coming directly from Shopify into our live general ledger, which would immediately hit the trial balance in our financial statements. We bring our online store orders, in this case, the Shopify orders, we bring them into a staging table. We review the orders to make sure everything is complete. Then we post those orders in batch to the accounting system, which is our general ledger, our trial balance, and ultimately our financials. So this product orders is in fact a staging table. We are using the always track, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new scenario so you can see. And my mouse just locked. Oh, there we go. Locked up there for a second. So I'm going to create this new scenario, which is going to consist of a Shopify module and not quite, and a Ninox module. And we started with Shopify when we built this. I'm going to go ahead and start with Shopify. And what we're doing is we are constantly looking for new orders, okay? Let's see here. When an order is created, that is going to be the batch trigger. Again, you can create products and update your products. All of the things that you see here in the Shopify module, you can do those in Ninox, and we recommend that you do them in Ninox. Let Ninox be your system of record, okay? So all of these things we're going to do in Ninox, and we're going to pass through the Integromat link, pass those from the system of record Ninox. Now, once we have established that an order has been created, and I'm going to go ahead. So now we are, we have all of the basic information here in the Shopify system. Now I'm not going to deal with that now. Again, I'm going relatively quickly. Now we're going to say in Ninox, that's not what I wanted to do. What we're going to do in Ninox, and again, we've already established our Ninox connection. We're going to establish the team, which is the cloud team that has our sales system of record in Ninox, the database, the table, and again, keep in mind that we recommend that you use a staging table. Since this is going to be impacting your accounting and your financial reporting, use a staging table, and then batch post the incoming transactions into your actual general ledger. As the record comes in, that creates the trigger. And I'm going to go back to, so this is how we built it. Again, just selecting the two modules, the Shopify module, the Ninox module. Once you've identified your modules, then, and let's go back to our scenarios. Then is a situation of saying, okay, Ninox is going to be looking for new orders at all times in real time. The batch processing is going to happen, again, in Ninox. In real time, Integromat will extract the information anytime the trigger is pulled. And in this case, we've defined the trigger as a new order coming in. When that trigger is pulled, Ninox will immediately pull that data into the staging database, use some kind of, whether it's a bell or an email or a text or a big red flag, which is what we used just a moment ago, use some indicator so Ninox can tell you that a new order has come in. You will also get a duplicate indication from Shopify when you get the email. But again, using Ninox as your system of record, make sure Ninox is letting you know when it is receiving orders. And then it's just a matter of the order will have already been processed through Shopify. Now that your data is in Ninox, your inventory is going to be updated automatically. Your Shopify inventory was updated automatically. It really is that simple. There's just not, and again, it's almost embarrassing, Martin, how simple it is. It's just a matter of dragging and dropping and mapping, much as you do when you're doing a Ninox import. It's just a matter of dragging and dropping and mapping the Shopify data fields to the Ninox table data fields.